Welcome to Vibrant Publishers podcast, where we interview experts in various fields to share their insights and knowledge with our listeners. Today, we are joined by Dr. Amlan Ray, who is an esteemed author of two of Vibrant Publishers' books in the Self Learning Management series, Microeconomics Essential and Macroeconomics Essentials. Dr. Amlan Ray is a PhD in international trade. His research work focuses on international trade policies. He has 28 years work experience with corporate houses, consulting firms, and academic institutions in the capacity of dean and director. Currently, he is working as AVP Academic Operations at Sunstone EdTech. He is also an advisor to Infinite Sum Modeling Inc., a leading economic modeling firm incorporated in Seattle, USA. He has executed consulting and training assignments with various organizations like European Business Group, Government of Telangana, Data Science Network Nigeria, Italy, AICTE, India, and World Bank. He has several publications in academic journals and books in the area of micro and macroeconomics. Amlan, welcome to our podcast and thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Nakul.
Right, so to kick things off, could you share a bit about your journey in the field of economics?
Yeah, it will be my pleasure to elaborate on that. So, after completing my BTech and MBA, I joined industry and I was into business. So, from business, I moved into consulting and I got teaching opportunities. And when I started teaching, then I saw that when you can teach business from a micro parameter on different aspects of strategy, international business, etc., the importance of economics remain immense in understanding business and as well as implementing the business strategies. So from there, my journey in economics began, and I pursued a master's in economics after completing my MBA. So this was with the viewpoint of knowing theoretical aspects of the economics, and I started teaching economics with a focus on international trade. So this is in a nutshell my beginning in the field of economics.
Okay, thank you so much for sharing that. Now let's talk about the topic of your two books.
Fair enough. So in case of microeconomics, we deal with more the individuals. So the choice of individuals, how people make choice in terms of their purchase, in terms of their consumption, these things we understand in microeconomics. And macroeconomics, we see it from an aggregate point of view. So say
Okay,
for example, when we deal with country's economy, that time it is macroeconomics because we are seeing aggregate of all the citizens in the country. When we talk about individual household, then it is micro in nature.
okay, got it. So, what are the key indicators and factors that influence a country's macroeconomic stability?
Yeah, that's a very interesting question. In fact, policymakers across the world are searching for these key indicators which, if they control, in that case, they can bring some kind of macroeconomic stability. So, herein, the first thing comes to my mind is fiscal discipline, or you can say the debt taken by a country. So debt can be two types. It can be internal debt taken from the people in the country, or it can be external debt taken from external agencies or other countries. So
Okay,
maintaining a balance between the country's income and the debt taken is one of the key indicators and key parameters in macroeconomics which can bring in stability. Second thing which affects a large number of people, in fact, everybody in the economy, is inflation, the price rise.
right.
So, macroeconomic policy makers try to control this price rise. There are the various tools like monetary policies, etc., which enable them to control inflation or price rise. Third thing I would like to emphasize is stability in currency. If there are a lot of fluctuation in your domestic currency vis-a-vis the valuation of the foreign currencies, in that case, business is at risk. Business faces risk because of the fluctuation in your currency. So arresting that is important. And yes, of course, the exports and imports done by a country, the trade deficit, the difference between export and import maintained by the country, are other important parameters which macroeconomic policymakers tries to control for bringing stability in the economy.
All right. And how do microeconomic principles play a role in shaping the decisions of individual consumers and businesses in today's globalized economy?
Right. When you talk about microeconomics, as we already discussed, that it is in the micro level for individual level. So when a company speculates on its demand, when it forecasts on its demand, then they need to understand the demand at individual level. So small changes in some parameters, say for example, if there is a change in my price, how much is it going to affect the consumer's demand or consumer's purchase? So that determines my ultimate revenue in the company, because finally the
Okay,
revenue is the product of price and quantity. So if I know how much my quantity will fluctuate due to change in price, then I can rightly forecast the total revenue generated by the company. So this way, microeconomics helps companies and even government in its different policy making. So when in companies case, they will be interested in the revenue, in profit. In case of government, government will be interested in total tax collection. So slight tweaking in the tax rate may bring in some kind of changes in total tax collection. So that is important from the perspective of the policymakers.
got it. And if you could provide an example of how microeconomic analysis has been applied to solve real world economic problems or maybe improve business strategies?
Right, I tell you, let me tell you from the perspective of a government. So we found that in 90s, government of India went for a liberalization in terms of taxes, policy making, etc. So therein what they did, they reduced the tax rates. So when they reduced the tax rates, there were a lot of opposition. So people said that if you are going to reduce the tax rate, in that case, the total collection of the government will go down. But contrary to that, when the tax rates were reduced, the total purchases went up in a big way, and total tax collection went up. So herein again we can see that microeconomics theories played a very important role in creating policies which was related to the taxation in a country. So this is one example. Pricing techniques are adopted by various types of companies that we can see in our day-to-day life. Say, for example, you take the example of aviation sector. There are so many airlines companies who give you tickets at different rates. So same kind of ticket which you can get say at $100, same price will go up. It may become $150 or $200 depending on when you are booking the ticket. If you are booking in advance, you get certain rate. If you are going for an immediate booking, maybe your rate will be higher. Similar things are adopted by hoteliers also. The rates vary depending on your booking time. So this is the microeconomics concept of price discrimination, in which we are going for different types of pricing strategies for catering to all segments of the economy. So this is an application of microeconomics theory of price discrimination, which helps companies in generating more and more revenue.
Okay, thank you so much for providing these insights to the two topics. So often we hear the terms economic growth and economic development used interchangeably. Can you clarify the distinction between these two concepts?
This is quite interesting, and I think it's worth spending some time, because you are very right that these terms are often used interchangeably, which is not correct. Growth and development are complementary, that I agree, but they are not synonyms. There is a difference. Say, for example, a country can have huge growth, but it may not translate into development. It depends actually how the policymakers are using the additional resources received through growth. If the growth is happening in certain points, in that case, the economy will have inequality and the entire economy will not grow. There can be regional growth also. In a large country like China or USA, there can be regional growth. I mean to say that some regions can grow faster compared to the others, as happened in China as well. We saw that coastal China prospered much faster compared to rest of China. So the country didn't develop. Certain parts of the country got the benefit of growth. So in these cases, policymakers need to see that the money generated out of growth is spent judiciously in developing the economy. So when we talk about development, we mean to say that there is a robust infrastructure in terms of uh, producing goods and services. There is a robust infrastructure in terms of imparting education skills. There is a robust infrastructure taking care of the health care of the citizens in the country. So that is the development. So money generated out of growth should be used prudently for development. And if both can go hand in hand, then the ideal situation we can reach at.
Okay, got it. Now shifting to the topic of fiscal and monetary policies. How do fiscal and monetary policies influence a country's economic performance, and what are the key differences between the two?
Yeah, let me come to that. So, the two major tools in the hand of the policymakers for directing or exercising some kind of control in the economy are fiscal policies and monetary policies. So, first one is monetary policy. If we talk about monetary policy, is concerned with the circulation of money. Usually, government does not directly control the circulation of money; they give it to the central bank to exercise control over it, wherein fiscal policy is usually directly dealt by the government, wherein they plan for their expenditure as well as revenue generation. So
Okay.
monetary policy works on interest rate, right? How much money will be in circulation. So if there is more money in circulation, in that case, what will happen? More money will chase equal amount of goods. So that will lead to inflation. So if I can squeeze the money supply in the economy, then automatically I can go for a price rise. Automatically, I can go for a arresting the price rise, right? I can control the price rise. So for controlling inflation, I can increase the interest rate. So money circulation will come down, and there will be less money in the economy. So my price will be coming down. At the same time, it will come at a risk. It will come at a risk because investors will not get money for investing in the economy. So it will also reduce my growth. So in monetary policy, we try to bring a balance between growth as well as a rise in price. Price rise affects common people and price rise affects elected governments. So they are quite sensitive in controlling the price. But at the same time, if you squeeze money supply too much, in that case, your investment pipeline will reduce. There will be less number of greenfield projects. So that will hinder your future employment generation, hinder your future growth potential. Now, coming to the fiscal policy. In case of fiscal policy, we are not concerned about the money supply. What we are concerned about? We are concerned about the taxes raised from the people. So again, we know there are two types of taxes: income taxes, and there are different goods and services taxes. So in case of income taxes, those are called progressive taxes, and indirect taxes are everybody is affected by that, irrespective of their income. Everybody needs to pay the indirect taxes. Now, if I go for rising taxes, in that case, again the price rise factor will come. If there are too much of taxations, then also the price will go up, which actually may not help the cause of growth. So if I can reduce the taxes, that will give more money in the hands of the people, there will be more demand and my economy will grow. But again, I need to bring a balance between the price rise as well as growth. So these were there are two tools in the hand of the government. One is the monetary policy, the other one is fiscal policy. One deals with money supply, the other one deals with taxation policies. Another important point I should highlight that when government has generated the fund by taxing the people, by taxation, then they require to spend this money judiciously. So how much money would I be budgeting for my defense sector? And how much money would I be budgeting for my health sector? That is again determined by the economists or the policymakers at the top. So priorities are set depending on the need of the country.
Okay, got it. Thank you so much for sharing that. Now, let's talk about free trade and global prosperity And if you could begin by explaining what is free trade.
Right, I come to that. So we know that free trade agreements have been a subject of debate in recent years, and we can also see that there is debate on protectionism.
Okay.
Free trade does not believe in border when we are dealing with people, when we are trading with people. So, in case of free trade, one country can freely or easily export or import from another country. So, what happens? My market size becomes bigger and the competencies vary across the world. So maybe New Zealand is quite competent in growing kiwis, but another part of the world may be competent in growing bananas. So when there will be free trade, the goods can flow freely from one part to another part. So even people in Mexico do not grow kiwi, they can get the fruits from New Zealand. Similar to that, Mexican bananas can go to New Zealand. This way, when there is trade, there is more exchange of goods and services that affects the price, it reduces the price, so people are better. People get more prosperity through free
Got
trade.
it.
That is the concept of free trade.
Okay, and why have they been a subject of debate?
Yeah, right. So now protectionism in short term is very attractive, and politicians across the world often give in to the pressure from the protectionist lobbies. So, what is portrayed that whenever there is free trade, some of your jobs, some of your resources may go to other country. But let's remember that if our resources are going to other countries, maybe we are losing 15% of our resources. At the same time, we may gain 25%. So ultimately, always there is a potential gain out of free trade. And it is not limited only in trading in goods, it is touching the services sector. It is among the mobility of the people also. When people from one country goes to another country, both the countries benefit because one country gets labor at a cheaper rate, the other countries' citizens are benefited by getting a hike in their salary or in their wages. So finally, free trade helps everybody, but in short term, sometimes it may appear that if I stop importing goods from another country and produce that goods in my country, then I can create in short term some jobs. So that is attractive, and that's why some sectors are protected by the politicians, which is contrary to the theory of free trade and which may hinder our development in long term.
So I believe there are more drawbacks than benefits for protectionist trade policies.
Very true. When we go for protectionism, so it may in short term give us some booster, but in long term the economy will suffer. Number one, will lose competitiveness. It will not be globally competitive. Second, you will be making something which you could get at a lower cost by importing from another country. So you are losing in that. And whenever we go for free trade, there is a concept of gains from trade, which will not come in case of protectionism. Let me elaborate a bit on the point of gains from trade. Suppose China prepares some kind of toys at $10, and same toys, if you manufacture in USA, it is costing you $15. So if USA imports from China, then they can go for a saving of $5. So this is a direct gain from trade. So this gain from trade will not come in case of protectionism.
Okay, correct. Thank you for your valuable inputs on the topic of on the topic of economics. Now, I would like to know what advice would you give to aspiring economists or individuals who are interested in pursuing a career in international trade and economics?
So, in case of international trade and economies, there are a number of beautiful courses which are in self-learning mode as well. People can go through those things. And when you are interested in international economics, first you should have some grinding, theoretical grinding, in terms of microeconomics and macroeconomics. Basics will do. We need not go for a very high level of understanding of micro or macro, but basic levels of understanding is important. So once we gain that, then we can follow different blogs, websites which are coming up in the websites of World Bank, World Trade Organization, International Trade Corporation, etc. And when we follow those issues and the debates on that, we get to know a lot of information and we get the right insight on the contemporary things. So this helps the contemporary, this helps the people in becoming contemporary in terms of understanding the economics and understanding the international trade. Second thing, if you are particularly interested for international business, in that case, while understanding the nitty-gritties of export and import, you need to understand how the macroeconomics or international economics function across the countries. So there are various models like PESTEL, which is talking about political, economic, social, technological, legal, etc. So those aspects we need to understand, and general studies, general reading habits can help a lot in understanding these things. If someone wants to go for an advanced level, in that case, there are lots of quantitative economics courses which helps us in forecasting the trade volume, etc., with the aid of forecasting models. So that can come at a later stage once we are thorough with our initial understanding about the economics.
Okay, correct. And are there any exciting developments or trends in the field of economics that you believe our listeners should keep an eye on in the coming years?
Yes, very much. So in economics, actually, every day we come across one or the other new thing. Say, for example, in 1995, WTO was incorporated. It is one of the youngest multilateral organizations. But WTO or World Trade Organization so far achieved limited success. So why? Because there are different regions which thought that their interest is not exactly protected by WTO agreements. So these places or these regions have gone for different types of regional trade agreements. So in spite of having WTO, we can see there are many of regional trade agreements across the world. So say for example, long back we had NAFTA, which included US, Canada and Mexico. Today recently, China and other countries concluded a regional comprehensive economic partnership with 15 members in Asia Pacific. Those kind of regional trade agreements are coming up. So how these regional trade agreements are cohabiting with the principles of WTO, that is one of the interest areas. How the post-COVID economic recessions were dealt in by IMF, World Bank, and uh, finance ministries of various countries is equally interesting. We have come out from the crisis of COVID-19, but till we require to address the impact created by that, the havoc created by COVID during the time of pandemic, that has to be addressed in the coming years. So these are the interesting areas in which people will be interested, and people interested in international trade, international economies can find a lot of interesting things and a lot of interesting insights coming out on the studies of these areas.
Okay, that's a valuable insight. Now, I would like to talk about your writing experience. And could you give advice to new authors who want to start the process of writing?
Yeah, that's really interesting. So when you start writing, so a book will have certain number of chapters. So what we can do, one thing is that if we can identify area of my interest and also understand that whether it will be interesting for the people, then we can zero in to that particular area. And once we have identified the area, then we can start writing small chapters on that particular area. It can be in the form of articles, blogs, etc. What I mean to say, suppose I am interested in international trade and inequality. So on that area, there are different aspects. So I can cover each at a time and start with writing blog or article, and then I can convert these things into a book. So that can be a step-by-step method which new authors can follow, and there can be good contribution coming out from them, which will be worth reading by people across the world. And I'm sure that people interested in economics will take interest in that.
Okay, great. Thank you for sharing that. Now, could you give a feedback on your experience working with Vibrant Publishers?
Yeah, it has been really a good journey with Vibrant Publisher. Particularly, I should mention that the founders of Vibrant Publishers and the entire team is very cooperative and very professional in their approach. Their understanding is good. They have a very good set of editors who help the author in understanding the nuances or the gaps in writing. So the feedback received from the editors are quite important for the authors like us, which help us in writing better. And the way Vibrant Publisher also bring the books to the readers, that is also worth mentioning. They have a very good set of marketing people, public relations people who make the reader aware about the crux of the book, and their presence is seen across the world of internet, and which is also helping the authors. So altogether, it is a very professional experience and nice experience of working with the Vibrant Publishers.
Yes, thank you so much for your kind words. And Amlan, thanks for being with us today and sharing your thoughts.
Thank you so much,
And
Nakul.
yeah, and to our listeners, thank you for tuning in. And we hope you enjoyed the podcast and found it insightful. Thank you so much, Amlan.
Thank you. It was pleasure talking to you.
Same here.